Hello, I am Luis Nuño. I am a professor in the area of signal theory and communications at the Polytechnic University of Valencia in Spain. Now I'm going to explain you some examples on composition performed with the aid of the harmonic wheel. The first example is the Valse Diabolico diabolic waltz, which contains progressions by major thirds, that is, following spiral lines on the harmonic wheel which correspond to the Coltrane changes. The second example is a bossa nova called Indudable, Undoubted, which contains progressions by minor thirds, that is, following radial lines, as in the Bartók axis. And the third example is a bossa nova called Renovación, Renewal, which contains progressions on the cycle of fifths, that is, following circular lines. The first two examples are included in my first CD of music for guitar, entitled Puesta de Sol Sunset, and the third example is included in my second CD of music for guitar, entitled Sueños, Dreams. Each of these CDs contains 20 original pieces for solo guitar, and they are performed by international guitarist Tony Cotoli. In the Valse Diabolico, I included progressions by major thirds, that is, 2 whole steps apart. If we look at the major chords, we find first an ascending progression, B major, E flat major, G major, B major, and then a descending progression, B major, G major, E flat major, B major, and G major. The minor chords follow a similar progression, first in ascending order, E minor, G sharp minor, C minor, E minor, and then in descending order, E minor, C minor, G sharp minor, E minor. We can represent these chords on the harmonic wheel, and we can see that both the major and minor chords follow a spiral line. The relationship between these chords is very clear. From G major to E minor, this is the relative of G major, and from E minor to B major, this last chord is the major dominant of E minor. If we go in the opposite direction, from B major to E minor, this last chord is the minor subdominant in B major. We can listen to this chord progression first with arpeggios. And now it's a different progression. Now the same, but including a melody. In this other example, we have progressions of chords by a whole and half steps apart in the descending way. If we look at the major chords, we find C sharp, then B flat, G, E, then again C sharp, this time diminished to increase variety, B flat diminish again, and then G major, E major. The minor chords follow a similar progression by whole and a half steps downwards. If we look here, G sharp minor, then F minor, D minor, B minor, again G sharp minor, F minor, D minor, and B minor. If we represent these chords on the harmonic wheel, we can see that major chords form a group of Bartók, and the minor chords form another group of Bartók. The relationships between these chords is very clear. From if we are in E major, its third degree is G sharp minor, And if we are in G sharp minor, this chord is the major subdominant. This means the chord in the melodic minor scale. We can listen to these chord progressions with a melody. And now in this last example, I included progressions of minor chords a whole step apart. If we think of C major, for example, we find the chords D minor and E minor, or D minor 7th, E minor 7th, which are a whole step apart. So these chords have a close relationship. After these two minor chords, a whole step apart, I included two modulating chords and then again two minor chords a whole step apart. Two other modulating chords in two measures, then again two minor chords a whole step apart, then two more modulating measures, two more minor chords a whole step apart, two more modulating measures, and again two minor chords a whole step apart, again two modulating measures, and again two minor chords a whole step apart. If we represent this chord progression on the harmonic wheel, for example, starting with A minor, we have A minor, G minor, a whole step apart, then modulating chord to D minor and D minor, again a modulation to this area A flat minor, B flat minor, again a modulation to E flat minor and F minor, another modulation to this region B minor, C sharp minor, another modulation F sharp minor and E minor, and finally another modulation to A minor. It is interesting to point out that the sound of a minor 7th chord is between the major and minor sounds. For example, the notes in D minor 7th are D, F, A, C, which are exactly the same notes as in F major 6th. So we can listen to this chord progression with a melody. First an introduction, and now it begins. Now it repeats. So I explained 3 examples on composition performed by the aid with the harmonic wheel, the Vals Diabolico, diabolic waltz, including progressions by major thirds, Bossa Nova Indudable, undoubted, including progressions by minor thirds, and Bossa Nova Renovación, renewal, including progressions on the cycle of fifths. You can find all the information on the webpage harmonicwheel.com. Thank you very much for your attention.